Good day, everyone. The war for talent. We've heard this term all far too often, and we usually hear it in environments where we have low unemployment. But I got to tell you, low unemployment, high unemployment, it doesn't matter. Having the best people helps your business win. And today, the war for talent is on even more than ever. So if you're having a hard time retaining and recruiting good finance and accounting professionals in your company, today is the day for your video. Hi, I'm Eric Rourke, CEO of Rourke, and I'm here to talk to you about what we call the 6 C's of recruiting and retaining key finance and accounting professionals. There was a gentleman back in the 1950s by the name of Frederick Hertzbergs. He was one of the pioneers in motivational theory. And he came up with Hertzberg's motivational theory. And in Hertzberg's motivational theory, there's two factors. The factor number one are motivators. Motivators are things which encourage employees to work harder. The other factor is what he called hygiene factors or dissatisfiers. I look at them as really demotivators. These are things that aren't going to encourage people to work harder, but if they're present, they will demotivate people or get people to not be as strongly perform. And I got to tell you, Gartner published a study about the engagement of employees, and it's absolutely astounding. Most employees are actually not engaged to being contra-engaged, as opposed to the very minority of employees who are engaged today. So today we're going to look at the 6 factors in recruiting and retaining through Hertzberg's eyes as far as motivational factors or what we'll call hygiene factors or what I call demotivators. So the first of the factors is going to be culture, company culture. And look, company culture is king, company culture is key. And a famous gentleman by the name of Peter Drucker said that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I agree with that. It happens every day. So the first question may be, what is culture, right? It's corporate culture, what it's like to work within your organization. The first component of culture is going to be your vision or your purpose. And that is super key. A lot of companies don't have this vision or purpose, or it isn't well communicated. So some employees go to work and think, my purpose here is to make money for the company. Not very inspiring at all. And really, good culture is a motivational factor that gets people to work harder. So when we look at, like, we'll use Rourke, for example, our purpose is to improve the health, happiness, and financial success of everyone we touch. That we get people excited about. And the reason why is it's not about money, it's about what we do in the community. So when we talk about health, we actually have people who are going home and eating healthier. When we talk about happiness, they're generally happy. We're looking to put them in places where the star shines the brightest. And financial success, everybody profits, whether it's the companies, it's the people who work with us, the people who work with the companies. That's a win-win for all. Those are things that we talk about. And I get really excited about the things that we can do in the community to help people's lives. That's something that's inspiring as compared to making money. Just an example of purpose or vision. Next is your core values. Great performers, high performers want to be around high performers. And core values really help set the tone of the culture within the organization. Who are the people that we want? Do they have similar values? Because if you have people that have different values, then it gets a little clunky and inefficient. So I'll just give you a couple ideas of core values or examples, again, using from Rourke. One of ours is commitment to excellence. So we want people who are going to go the extra mile, who are going to learn and grow, and it excites them to be in an environment like that. Another one is we win together. That's very important for us. So we want to win with our customers, we want to win with our employees, we want to win with our vendors, all the way around those key relationships. One of our important core values is we do it the right way. So it's not about short-term gains, it's about doing the right things. This also becomes very attractive to people because I can't tell you how many people that feel comfortable in organizations that they're at and their decisions, and they don't really know what they stand for. Having core values set out and straight is really helps people understand who they are. Jim Collins talked about who's on the bus, are they in the right seats, and is everybody going the right direction? This is an important part of that. And the reason why culture is so important is, one, it attracts people. So if you're very clear on what your vision is and it aligns with what people's visions are, and they have the same core values, you're going to be attracting the right people, and you have a filter to attract those people in the organization that you want. The other part of that is living by those core values provides a tremendous amount of stickiness. People get very excited to come to work and be a part of something that's great. If you want to, so if you're in your culture and you looked and you said, hey, I really want to improve that, there's some great books, some great authors out there. Jim Collins is amazing. I've read books, Traction, Scaling Up. There's plenty of great organizational development books that are there. There's also great implementers. So it's one thing to read a book, it's another thing to do it. I highly encourage the implementers because then they have the experience. And then when you get to that point, there's also peer advisory groups for owners and key executives. They're very helpful in continuing that and being able to deal with issues. Culture, first and very important motivator to our 6 C's today. Our next C is going to be challenge. Challenge is a motivational factor. So I think about, and I'll just step back for a moment, I think about the movie The Matrix. I remember watching that movie, and I really enjoyed the first one. I like action movies and, techie geek a little bit too. But I was like, when I get to the second, third one, I was like, what's the plot to that? And there are obviously a lot of subplots. But when I got to thinking about it, and I think about the human condition, I think the human condition is we're just conditioned to grow and advance and do better, all the way from people exploring new shores in America to space exploration to science. It's just who we are, and it's embedded in us. So challenge is definitely a motivational factor, but it's the right challenge which is going to be important. So high performers are looking to learn, advance, and grow. And we hear this all the time whenever we talk to people about different opportunities. So they're looking for someone who can mentor them. They can do new things. They're looking for a place where they can advance, where they grow personally and professionally in an organization, opportunities for CPE. Not all companies, some companies are on a high growth trajectory, which makes it easy to learn, grow, and advance. But there's ways to think outside the box on this. So what's the next opportunity within the organization? You can give people certain projects. You can have them work in different areas in the company to be able to expand their knowledge. That gives them a chance to learn and grow. And having a good leader that's going to challenge them and give them projects or things outside of their understanding. High performers are ones that eat that up and looking for that next challenge and growth. And it doesn't have to be the next promotion. It can be other opportunities within the organization. And look, the leaders, I had this conversation the other day with someone who's looking for an opportunity, and she wanted to be a leader. And so she's like, oh, I need a management or director level position to be a leader. And I actually had the conversation with her. I was like, no, actually you don't. That's a manager, that's authoritarian. But true leaders are people that have people that follow them. And you don't always have to be in that position to do that. Whenever you're in the position where people are following you, and mostly that comes from caring and empathy and being passionate and performing. When you're passionate and performing, you're caring, you're empathetic, and you will generally attract a following when all that's authentic. So being able to lead a project or an initiative or something new for the company is a great way to give these challenges to folks that will keep people motivated. So our next C in looking at motivational factors is going to be contentment. So it is a motivational factor. Do they like what they're doing? If they don't like what they're doing, then it's going to be tough to continue to do it. And look, not everybody's built the same. Some people like to grow and build things. Some people like to maintain things. Some people are extroverts. Some people are introverts. Some people are analytical. Some people go through feeling. There's all sorts of different types of people. And candidly, thank God, right? Diversity to me, is welcome and wonderful. It's the greatest thing in the world. And so if you align people's personalities and their strengths with their position, then they live their purpose. And we talked about putting people in a position where their star shines the brightest. That's really what this is. And they become very excited with their job. And the question is also, do they feel comfortable with the team? Do they feel comfortable with who they're working with? That becomes a motivator that keeps people. We hear people says, hey, I don't care how great of a job that there is out there. These people are like family. I can never leave the folks that are here. It's very motivating for them to be around those people that are jumping in the fire and making it happen with them. But as far as contentment, just kind of opposite of challenge, when we talk about it being right, is, do they feel comfortable with the responsibility that they're given? If they don't, then that's going to be a challenge, whether it's too little, where they need the challenge, or it's too much, where they're uncomfortable. Then we need to make sure that we're balancing that out properly for professionals. And that's going to be a motivator. And very important becomes recognition, rewards, achievements. People are all looking to achieve and strive. They want to be recognized for their efforts. People will run through a wall for recognition and reward. And I think as a culture, or maybe it's just here in the US, we do so much focus on the negative and how do we build things. And we do so less focus on the positive. And I really believe it has to be a balanced approach. So I would just challenge you, whoever's watching this video today, think about your team or your peers and what people do right. In our firm, we have a little thing we call get caught doing something right, because everyone gets caught doing something wrong. Get caught doing something right. Call them out on it. And look, whether it's public or private, depends on the person, but you'll be amazed what it does for them. And it's probably well overdue. So my ask of you today in this video, go out, get caught, catch somebody doing something right today. So as far as our next group of C's, we're going to talk about the hygiene factors. These are the dissatisfiers or demotivators. So these hygiene factors are very interesting because they could be short-term motivators, which is very short-term, obviously, but they're not long-term motivators. But if they don't exist, they become demotivators very quickly. And the one that is actually a common misconception, and our fourth C, is going to be compensation. Compensation is only a short-term motivator. It's not a long-term motivator. And we see this time and time again. But the thing is, if compensation isn't aligned, it's the opposite of the contentment we talked about, recognition, reward, and achievement. If they aren't getting recognized or rewarded, they feel fairly, then it quickly becomes a demotivator. And I'll tell you, be careful, because your best people are all the ones that are getting calls for additional money. So, that you need to balance out. Just make sure you're in market. Sometimes people will make poor decisions based on money. That's okay. Just as long as you're compensating fairly, that's where you really need to be. And so, look, trends in compensation, obviously recently compensation is going up with the inflationary pressures that we're feeling in the market. Compensation will go up because people are naturally acquiring skills if you're challenging them. This is the tough part with high performers. And personal philosophy is, hey, come to me, talk to me, and if we can't provide the challenge or what you're looking for, that's okay, then you graduate from the company. But give me every opportunity to keep you in the company. Not all your high performers are going to stay, and those should be celebrations and graduations. And too many people hide or are nervous about those conversations. I would encourage you to have those open conversations. I'm also a huge believer in pay for performance. If you can add value to the company, let's align that value with compensation. And so that's tricky to do. But once you have it dialed in, and that really goes back to having good key performance indicators and performance appraisals and reviews, that would be a strong motivator for employees to be able to take on new projects like we talked about challenge. And it also helps to reduce this compensation being a hygiene factor as well. So reward your people. Don't be afraid to do that. Top talent always wins. So our next factor, which is a hygiene factor, is going to be comfort. And not everybody has to be comfortable in their job, but we hear very often, hey, I'm not comfortable with where the management team is going, with the company's stability. And that actually causes good people to move. Sometimes acquisitions. You see a lot of people leave during an acquisition. Some people are asked, but good people will leave during the acquisition. And it's so important to make sure you're holding on to people. But comfort is super important. Part of that comfort is working conditions. I remember myself, I was talking to a CPA firm, and they were talking about kind of their philosophies and their pillars. One of the things that I left with that was surprising to me, they said that their offices, and they have very nice facilities, they said that they perceive that as recruitment expense because the work conditions are really important to people. And if they're comfortable, then it's not going to be a demotivator. So it's a very interesting thing. And we've seen some companies where things are dirty, they're outside, the air conditioning doesn't work well, the facilities aren't that nice. that will cause people to be dissatisfied and look at other opportunities. They also may not feel appreciated because of that. And then do they get along with their boss and their peers? If they don't, then that's not very comfortable. If they do, it could be a flip around and build a lot of loyalty. But being comfortable going to work and with the people that you work with is very important, especially as we're in this environment where we look at, focusing on what people's products are, not who they are, or their backgrounds, or whatever these items are that we shouldn't be looking at. Let's build inclusive environments where people feel very comfortable working and you get the best and the brightest talent. And finally, most important in comfort is work-life balance. What I've seen, and my biggest mistake as a CFO was not bringing in additional consulting resources or additional support for big projects that we had. I tried to do it with my resources. I learned that lesson, but it was a hard lesson at times because you burn out the resources. And sometimes it's tough because you got to go fight budget battles. I lost a number of budget battles on that. And then we ended up paying for the long term because the cost of turnover is so expensive. But people will work well in short-term bursts on a project, but it can't be long and continual. And studies show the better work-life balance builds the better performance for people. They're happier. Key performance or top performance is at its highest when people are happy, as well as they stay longer as well. So comfort, very important. Demotivator if it's not there. So our sixth and final C today is going to be one that not everyone thinks of, but is critically important. That's commute. And today, with the work from home environment and everything like that, that's become one of the factors that has not been a demotivator for people because they're not driving or commuting. But as things shift, people go back more to work. It's going to become more and more, and traffic becomes very, very difficult as we start becoming condensed in major metropolitan areas. And what we see in the accounting and finance field, just as a general rule of thumb, these are generalities, is specialist level folks tend to really be looking for 30 minutes or less of a commute. Whereas our professional level, which is usually our degreed senior accountants, senior financial analysts, cost accountants, revenue accountants, they are typically looking for 45 minutes or less. Your management or your executive team are typically looking for an hour or less. I know some of these things vary, but that's just the generalities that we see. And look, it depends on the person and what their personal conditions are, but that's just a good rule of thumb as you're looking at commutes. The tough part is if you look at a commute in LA, that is going to be a lot less miles. So you're going to have a closer geographic distance just because of the time as compared to maybe somewhere in my family lives out in St. Louis, Missouri. That becomes a very different level of traffic and you can get a lot further faster. We find that time is really more the factor than it is miles, even though miles do become less of a factor with wear and tear and things like that. So just be very cognizant of that. And as far as trends going on right now or ways to fight that, is we see people working remotely. So if that's available, it does become interesting because you're more junior people that are learning still and need that time with their managers. They need to be more in person. That tends to be the best successful way that we see out there. And the managers tend to need to be there for them. But when we get people that are at a certain level, pardon me, they will require less and less supervision, then you have some more flexibility. The challenge is you also give up some of the growth opportunities as well for them and being together and some of the camaraderie. So my prediction of where all this is going is I think Ernst & Young did this when I first started my career, a hoteling concept where people are going to be in and out of the office. It's going to reduce the overhead costs of facilities and allow people flexibility as needed. I think we're going to figure that out. And it's very exciting, the new era that we're in. But my point to this is, as far as commute goes, realize you're competing people that are working with more and more remote workers, and being flexible and creative in this new environment. I think the key is focusing on the product and the result as opposed to where they're at. And that requires a level of trust. But at the end of the day, trust is really key in recruiting and retaining employees as well. So today we talked about culture, challenge, commitment, compensation, comfort, and commute. These are the 6 C's of recruiting and retaining key finance and accounting professionals. But my question is, would you add anything? Maybe there's a 7th C that's out there. And please let us know in the comments below anything that you would add so that we can share with the community as far as recruiting and retaining great finance and accounting professionals. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Ring the bell there on YouTube, or hit the little bell icon, and you'll be notified of the next video in the series. I thank you all for watching today. God bless you all. We wish you the greatest success and happiness in recruiting and retaining the best finance and accounting professionals out there. Take care.